Rev up your engines. Toyota Sequoias, they're big as trees. That's why I call them Sequoias. Here's a used one I got about a month ago, and it's got a couple of problems here that we're gonna see if we can get Toyota to fix them for free. Now, of course, they're gigantic. This is a Platinum. It's the top of the line one, but as you can see, the inner door card was not made top of the line. You can see it is melted. It's melting down. Now, he just got the vehicle a month and a half ago. He's contacted Toyota, and he wants to see what they're gonna do. Well, we'll see if we can help him along. Hopefully, Toyota won't say, oh, well, the previous owner had a hot elbow and melted it, because it's also melted up here, too. Now, as we go to the other side, strangely enough, that side's perfect, and the back ones are perfect, too. Although the left front one is all faded and melted, the left rear one isn't at all. There's a screen there. It's got a little darkening screen. Maybe that kept this one from going. Because, of course, you can't have a darkening screen on your driver, so you wouldn't be able to see. So, Toyota, hopefully you will give this man a new inner door card. They shouldn't melt. All the vehicles here are Toyotas. Some of them are almost 30 years old, and the door cards are still in pretty good shape. None of them have melted. And for a Platinum Edition Sequoia, I wouldn't expect it to be melted. Now, come on, when this thing was new, it went for $65,000. Taking them in and out is nothing. You gotta buy the whole assembly. We'll keep in touch to see if they do or not. And if they don't, guess who's gonna talk about it? Me! You've been warned, Toyota. Now, it's a used vehicle and the seat memory doesn't work. It won't hold the memory. So we're gonna scan it to see if there's any odd things, because in my mind, the melted panel and the setting for the seat memory is in the same place. So who knows? Let's see what it says. So we'll plug the Autel in here, and we'll see if anything odd shows up. We got a Toyota. That's 2018 Sequoia. Your diagnosis. You can see it's going through a lot of systems. We're on number 19 now. We're 93% now. 30 separate things, and 100%. It's gone through them all. Now we'll check some of these trouble codes here, because this is part of the body system. These codes are all lost communications. A lot of it has to do with the radio system. Now, a lot of times I see you get codes for radio systems because it's been changed from the stock, but this is still the stock Toyota Sequoia system. Strangely enough, still got CD player. Look, check it out. And let's face it, for a $65,000 vehicle, it's a bit antiquated. I mean, even though it's 4 years old, still, it's kind of antiquated. It could have gone a little higher tech. And for some reason, this thing is losing communication with the computer line that goes to it. But we never know if it's been worked on or anything before. So what we're going to do is going to erase these codes. Then we take it for road test, see if any of the codes come back. Now, I do have to say, for a Toyota, this thing's got quite a few codes. It makes me kind of wonder what's going on here. He hears air suspension more than he does in his Tundra. That doesn't make much noise. This one's making noise. So let's look at the fault for the air suspension system. The exhaust solenoid is what lets extra pressure off. If you want the suspension higher, you get it higher, and then when you want it lower, it releases some of the pressure, so it goes lower. And it says it's getting continuous current sometimes, which would, of course, make it open a lot, so the pump would be running a lot more. We'll listen to it when we're road testing. We'll erase this code and see what happens after our road test. And we have a problem with communication coming from the driver's door. We're going to erase all of these before our road test and see if any of them come back. We don't know if this thing's been worked on, has had batteries changed, any electrical work done. Normally you don't, which kind of makes me wonder if this thing was ever in a wreck. He bought it about a month and a half ago, and this is the first I've ever seen it, so we'll be thinking about that while we're looking at the rest of the data. For kicks, we're going to go through active testing to see if we can find any tests for the seat memory, but unfortunately it's got all of these tests, but there's nothing for the seat memory. There's driver door, interior lamp, but there's nothing to test that with. It says the outer mirror slave circuit is open. The circuit's broken in there. I'm thinking this door has been damaged in a wreck or something. And that maybe the damage on this was because it was all taken apart and some fool stuck this somewhere, got acid or something on it while they were working on the car, and that was wrecked this one only. The monitoring doesn't work. It says it's a short circuit. The seat memory doesn't work. It's all in this door. Now here we can do the blind spot monitoring. We can do some tests, special functions, but there's still nothing to test this with. And you can see for a big expensive vehicle, it could do with a little bit better backup camera. It's kind of tiny there. So here we go on a little road test, and we'll see what happens while we're going down the road. It runs perfectly fine and everything, and then we'll see if anything's going on with the air suspension. A little drag strip here, and we want to run it through its paces to see if anything is going to come back. You know, this thing's got a lot of pickup. It's a smooth transmission. It's an actual transmission. It's not one of those CVT crappers. It confirms that this thing's been wrecked at some time because this side whistles, but that side doesn't whistle at all. And there's problems in the electronics on this door, but none on the other side. Shut it off because we want to have 2 trips. If you do 1 trip, you won't get any codes coming back, and then you'll think it's fixed, but it isn't. So now we'll go for another trip, and we'll see what comes back when we get back. All right, so we drove it. Start it back up, and now we'll see if anything has come back. And here we go, we're rebooting it, and we're going to see if any of those codes came back. As you can see, everything seems to be coming up roses now. The bottom end never had any problems anyways, but as we can see, all the codes are gone, the ones that were here before, so there's no really hard fault with it. We'll go to the air suspension, because it says it was stuck before on the exhausting all the time. Trouble code's gone because it says it's not back yet. So, just for giggles, we'll go over here to testing. It did say it had a problem with the exhaust solenoid before, so let's go to height control. It's off. We'll turn it on. Yep. Well, that's definitely working. And as you can see, they're all at their maximum position, 16, they're working. Minor glitch in the exhaust solenoid. It's not making the noise now, but he says when he goes on a long trip, a lot of times when he's done, he comes off, he'll hear it then. Maybe after the strain of driving it a long time, the exhaust solenoid then lets it down. But it's not like he's coming in and the thing sunk down to the ground. I mean, if it continued to do it and it bothered him, I'd say go ahead and replace the exhaust solenoid, but it's sitting perfectly even. And with that, I would just personally leave it alone. But enough, it showed that there was a short in the circuit there before, but now it doesn't. Now only time is going to tell that. If that code came back, then obviously the car had been in a wreck at some point in time. When you hit a certain curve or bump or something, the wiring is probably touching something, then it's shorting out, and then it'll trip that code. But you never can tell because these things are so complex. If this thing had been worked on, say from a wreck, if the guys didn't have a machine like this, which many body shops do not, they would not reset the codes, and all those codes that were on there were because they didn't reset it after the body work was done, which is a good tip for everyone else out there. You get body work done on a car, you know what you do? Find a mechanic who has one of these to look at everything, show the codes that exist, film it with your phone camera, have him reset it, and then drive it around a while, bring it back. If any of those codes come back, guess what? They didn't fix it right, and make them fix it under the insurance that fixed the wreck. That's how complex cars are today, and you got to go that far if you're worried about every little nitpicking thing, because they're complex. They've got computer bus lines that have slow data, mid-range data, high-range data. Any tiny problem from a wreck can start tripping codes up the wazoo. If you're gonna buy a used luxury vehicle, you always want to try to find a guy like me with a machine like that to see what's going on. Why are these codes here? Could be as simple as resetting them. None of them will come back at some point in time. And he did see in the Carfax that came with it, it was probably in an accident in West Virginia or something previously. You always want to go through a fine-tooth comb on any car that you suspect's been in an accident. Because it's not like in my day when I was young. Cars had carburetors, mechanical fuel pumps, hardly any electrical crap on them at all. They got wrecked, you fix the body work, what you see is what you get. Well, underneath the hood of one of these things, there's more electronics than you can shake 10,000 sticks at, and you want to make sure that none of those have any particular problems, because it can go absolutely bananas if the car had been wrecked or flooded, and that information isn't going to show up on your check engine light. This is all high-level data, and in this case, they're almost all communication codes, which goes through the CAN bus system, which is just wires having all that information going on. And any tiny crimp or any tiny corroded part, or where it got in a wreck and a wire got pinched, and maybe when you hit bumps, then it's starts to act up, it'll start tripping codes that will drive a mechanic nuts if he wants to fix every single little code that's on there. And in this case, the seat works perfectly fine, goes up, down, you know, goes everywhere you want. It's electronic, but the memory doesn't work. And something like that, most people are going to live without that. What the heck? It's not that big of a deal, right? But it can go a lot further. So always get them checked out with somebody with a really good machine before you buy, to make sure that you're not getting something that may turn into a headache further down the line. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.